Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. I'm Charles Skaggs, back in the TARDIS once again, ready to talk some Doctor Who, some classic 80s Doctor Who, which I'm really excited about. And I'm even more excited about because this time, special guest companion is none other than my Ghostwood co-host with the most, Xan Sprouse. Welcome to Next Stop Everywhere. How you doing?
Hey, Charles. I'm good. How are you? I'm excited to be here in the TARDIS with you tonight.
I am. We just got done talking. I'm trying really hard to stay focused and not like start talking Twin Peaks or David Lynch because I'm so used to talking that with you on these Thursday nights. And here we are talking Doctor Who, and it's going to take a little getting used to. It's a little weird, but a pleasant weird for me because I've got one of my favorite people talking Doctor Who, and you were kind enough to help us out as a special guest companion. So thank you for doing that.
Hey, anytime you need help talking about Doctor Who, I am here for you, Charles.
Oh, don't give me that option because like Xan, you want to talk about Canine and Company? No, but
of course I do.
Okay, so yeah, everybody, Xan and I, obviously we do Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast here on the beloved Southgate Media Group network. And so if you enjoy us here together, please check out that podcast, and we'll give you some more information about that later on. But for right now, we're going to talk the greatest show in the galaxy, the galaxy, the galaxy. And for you, as you know, to kind of reset the old rapping ringmaster.
The rapping ringmaster is,
and so yeah,
probably
this is
not the best way to start this episode.
Right, I don't want to drive people off. Yes.
Yeah. It's in spite of him, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, in spite of the rapping ringmaster, but yeah. So this was obviously this was written by Stephen Wyatt, who also wrote the previous story Paradise Towers from Sylvester McCoy's first season, directed by Alan Waring, and this was the fourth serial of season 25 that aired in 1988. So we're looking at what, 31 years now?
31 years, because I think this aired like the last week of December and then bled into January of 1989.
Almost 31 years. But still, yeah. So obviously this story has a lot of mileage, and hey, so do I, because I watched it, back in the day. And this is starring, of course, Sylvester McCoy as the Seventh Doctor, and Sophie Aldred as Dorothy Ace McShane. So,
Dorothy Ace McShane, yes.
Yes. Of course, their real name, Dorothy McShane, was revealed during the novels that came out, the New Adventures, if you remember those from back in the day, way back after the show was canceled.
I've got some of those.
I do too. Yep. Written by Paul Cornell and Mark Gatiss and all kinds of cool people back then. They were actually really cool, those New Adventures novels.
I think didn't Terry Nation write some of those too?
He wrote some of the Doctor Who episode adaptations that he did.
Oh, the adaptations. Okay.
Like the Dalek stories that he wrote. Yeah, he wrote some of the novelizations for those for Target. Yeah.
Terry Nation, the granddaddy of the Dalek stories.
Exactly. Yeah, we had a lot of fun when we talked Genesis of the Daleks not too long ago. The origin story of the Daleks. Yes. And precursor to the Trump administration. Go figure.
Best Dalek episode ever.
Right.
So good.
But yeah, so this is an episode a story that you recommended, Xan. So why don't we get into that a little bit? I'm kind of curious. Why did you recommend this particular story when we were talking we were talking Seventh Doctor and Ace and 80s Doctor Who? Why did you suggest this one? I'm just kind of curious about that.
Well, it was mostly because we were talking about the Seventh Doctor and Ace, and I contend, and the internet can fight me on this, that when it comes to Doctor Who...
they will.
They will, yeah.
Yeah.
When it comes to Doctor Who companions, Ace is the best one. Ace is the most self-sufficient. She is the most versatile.
Right.
She saves the Doctor more than the Doctor has to save her. she's my favorite.
She's not a screamer, which is always a good bonus points.
Hey, but that's the thing. She's very self-sufficient, and she's a mechanic, and she can fix things, and
she knows chemistry.
Very, very
she knows chemistry.
She knows everything, basically. And I'll tell you a quick little story. Years ago, when I met my friend, oh my goodness, this is like 25 years ago at this point. When I met my friend Carol Zaruka.
Okay.
When I first met her, she said, I don't know if you know who I'm talking about, but you remind me a lot of Ace from Doctor Who. And that is, to date, one of the top 5 compliments I've ever received in my entire 43 years of existence.
That's a pretty cool compliment, and I can see why.
Yeah.
I mean, knowing you as I do, I think that's a pretty good comparison. I think that's pretty dead on.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you very much.
As long as you don't go around exploding things with Nitro 9 canisters on a regular basis. I mean, just occasionally.
I don't carry around that backpack the way she does.
The rucksack.
So I just don't have that. Yeah. I don't have that at my disposal all the time. And this episode was my first exposure to Ace.
Okay, so this is your first 7th Doctor and Ace story.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So that's cool. That's an interesting one to kind of debut on. So with that in mind, what did you think? Since we were on the subject, what did you think while watching that for the first time? What did you think of those characters?
Well, I absolutely loved the characters. I thought
because you had watched Doctor Who before, right?
I had watched Doctor Who before, but keep in mind when I first saw this episode, I think it was probably somewhere between 93 and 95. Yeah. I can't tell you for sure when it was.
Right.
And this was before videotapes were readily available.
Mm-hmm.
And this was, of course, before DVD. I mean, videotapes were the only thing we had. You couldn't really find episodes on videotape very easily. You kind of had to know a guy that taped it. So I pretty much saw Doctor Who when I saw Doctor Who.
Right. A lot of people, I'm sure.
Right. And that was usually around 10 o'clock p.m. on Saturday nights on our local PBS station, which here in Columbus is WOSU.
Right.
And which is WPBO TV 42 in Portsmouth. It's channel 34 here. Mm-hmm. Can you tell I've done fundraising for them for the last 30 years?
I can. So all the people that, remember, if you're old enough like me, if you're older than dirt, and you remember the pledge breaks during the middle of Doctor Who, mm-hmm. Xan was one of the people on the phones during those pledge breaks, if I recall correctly.
No, not often. I did it a couple of times. What I mostly did were those weekends, the last weekend of April and the first weekend in May, if you lived in Columbus.
Yeah.
When Doctor Who was just not on because we were doing the Channel 34 auction.
Oh, okay.
That's what I did.
All right. So you weren't interrupting Doctor Who because it wasn't on. So that's good.
Oh, we were postponing Doctor Who.
So you were making people wait for Doctor Who. That's it.
We replaced it for like 2 weekends a year. Yeah. So if you wanted to watch Blake 7 on Friday and Doctor Who on Saturday, forget it because it's not happening because the auction's on.
You would basically be watching at home, watching television, going, Doctor Who isn't on again? Come on. You're killing me.
No, I would be working the auction and saying, "Oh, I'm going to hear about this later." My Doctor Who friends are going to complain at me.
Saying, "Why are you keeping Doctor Who from us? Why?"
I didn't watch you. I only saw you on Saturday because I forgot that stupid auction was on. I was trying to watch Doctor Who, but I saw you on TV, so that was kind of cool. That's mostly what I heard. There was one time I got to class, and my history teacher, he's like, "Hey, stand up for a second." And I said, okay. He's like, come up to the front of the class and just sort of turn around a little bit. Just sort of turn around real slowly. I said, all right. He's like, that's what you did on TV last night because I was modeling some clothes.
Right, right. That's funny.
So he had apparently seen that and he wanted to tell. That's how he told me about it. So thanks, Larry. Thanks for that.
Shout out to Larry.
Yeah, shout out to Larry Gay, my history teacher from high school. So
nice.
When you could only see Doctor Who when you could see it, and also keep in mind that I was in high school and I was in college around this time.
Yeah.
So I had part-time jobs, or even before then I babysat. So sometimes Saturday nights I was kind of busy.
Right.
So, and it wasn't exactly the kind of thing that you could say, hey, Mom and Dad, I know it's Saturday night and you're home wanting to watch something, but can you not watch something so I can tape this TV show you can't stand?
Because you didn't have a VCR in your own room, I take it.
Not for a long time. Not till probably not till 94.
Okay.
So I caught it when I caught it, and this was one that I hadn't seen Doctor Who in a while, and I just happened to be home, and it happened to be on, and it was this one.
Okay.
And it was my first exposure to Sylvester McCoy and Sophie Aldred, and I really liked. Well, I loved her. I fell in love with her.
Right.
And she was she was so cool. Where she's sort of tomboyish, and she's sort of feminine,
right.
and she can do anything, and she knows everything, and she's just amazing.
Yeah.
And Sylvester McCoy was just such a lovable little cute doctor.
Right.
It was like if Dudley Moore would have been Doctor Who, it would have been like this, I think.
That's fair.
I love his sweater.
So you're one of the few people that actually like the question mark sweater pullover.
I love the question mark sweater, and I love the question mark umbrella.
Yeah, see, I love the umbrella, and actually, yeah. I kind of like. I'm actually cool with the question mark sweater as well. So the pullover.
Well, it kind of took the question
okay
mark. It took the question marks on the lapels from Peter Davis and took it and ran with it.
Yeah.
So
because that was all John Nathan Turner, the producer, who insisted once he took over as showrunner that says, okay, we need to kind of brand Doctor Who a little bit, so let's have this question mark motif with Doctor Who, which is why when Tom Baker in his last season he starts wearing the question mark lapel in his shirt in his last season, because that was the season John Nathan Turner took over.
Right, and then of course Peter Davison with his cricket outfit and the lapels, and
Colin Baker and
lapels. So, but yeah, they just really went with it for
and then by the time Sylvester McCoy came, they just like, okay, question marks everywhere.
Yeah, and Sylvester McCoy has he has a good mix of like goofy dad jokes.
Yeah.
But he's also badass when he needs to be. And he's a good mix of everybody, I think, because he's not as cocky as Colin Baker was.
He's more confident than cocky.
Right.
Because especially once he starts being like in his later episodes, he's more the manipulator.
Exactly.
The chess player. Yes.
The plotter.
Yes, the plotter, the schemer. Yes.
Yeah. And, whereas Colin Baker, he starts out with these sort of underhanded insults and this sort of pretentious, cocky nature that he has going on, which I thought for him. Mm-hmm. Anybody that's going to wear a coat like that has to be cock of the walk.
Right.
Because you can't pull that off if you're not going to do that. And then,
if you're going to grab everybody's attention, you might as well go full out.
You're going to go full out. And then you have somebody like a Tom Baker with the, who knows little thing. And you have, so I thought he was a good mix of everybody, but also, adding his own thing to it.
Yeah.
And I just, like I said, I just loved Ace. She hooked me. She hooked me immediately.
McCoy came from this kind of like stage performer type background. And where he was kind of doing like a lot of physical comedy, and so that's why in this story it's kind of interesting, because this really plays to that strength here, because obviously when he's trying to entertain the gods of Ragnarok at the end in the final episode,
talk about physical comedy.
He's really doing. I mean, I did a little research, and apparently, they taught him how to do a lot of those magic tricks that we see him do, especially for this story, but he's a natural at it. He knows how to do physical comedy. That's why you see him like, swinging around on, the ropes across the circus ring and whatnot, doing like this kind of very, very Douglas Fairbanks style swings or whatnot. And, so he's and that's one of the things he brought to the role, is that, he was one of the more physical doctors.
And that's him tied up upside down, trying to get out of a straitjacket while tied up by his ankles. That's him doing that.
And cracking jokes while he's doing it, because that was his shtick back in the day on stage.
Yeah, and apparently that was he was totally in his element. He loved doing that.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I'm sure you probably really enjoyed a lot of that. Um, so little bit of there's a little bit of trivia I want to talk about really quickly. Um, Interestingly, now T.P. McKenna, who is the guy who plays Captain Cook in this story, he was
Captain Cook.
yeah, the rather crushing bore Captain Cook. He was actually considered for the role of the chief caretaker back in Paradise Towers. So
Oh,
he
interesting.
he was almost in that story, and and then there's that little bit in when we were first start the episode for the story. We see Ace kind of rummaging around looking for her rucksack with the Nitro 9 in it, and she's in the
And
closet.
What does she come out of the closet with?
Yep, Tom Baker's scarf.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love when they do stuff like that.
That was a great Easter egg.
Yeah, there are a couple of times where that's happened. There's a that I just love. Like there's a Buster Keaton movie where his father is trying to make him dress a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
and the man at the gentleman's clothing store keeps handing them hats, and eventually hands him Buster Keaton's hat.
Right.
He sees himself in it and just panics and takes it and throws it off. Things like that.
Yeah.
Or and more recently, when Fox ran the TV production of Rent,
Yeah.
and they were going through clothes, they pulled out the sweater that the original Mark wore on Broadway, and somebody was like, "Oh God, no!" I mean, stuff like that.
Just a lot of in jokes on that. Yeah.
Yeah, clothing in jokes, or I don't know if you ever watched
Easter egg references and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you watched the Fantasy Island with Malcolm McDowell.
I did. I actually thought that was kind of cool because it had that dark tone to it.
I love that show.
Like almost like a Twilight Zone type tone to it.
It's very much like that. And at the very first episode of that show, he's telling his gentleman's gentleman, hey, and dispose of those white suits. They're so dated.
Yes.
And just any sort of clothing throwback, I think is wonderful.
Because so Malcolm wore black suits as opposed to the contrast, to Ricardo Montalban's, white suits, exactly. Yeah. So that was a fun.
I love that kind of stuff. Those sort of clothing throwbacks, and where she just comes, she's like on her knees looking for something, but she's wearing the scarf. I'm like, that is amazing.
Yeah, you get a lot of those in Doctor Who when the Doctor is regenerating and he's looking for a new outfit, or she, and starts rummaging through the wardrobe room and will maybe pull out Tom Baker's scarf, or John Pertwee's kind of velvet jacket or what have you, and Patrick Troughton's fur coat from the Yeti, the Abominable Snowman or whatever, stuff like that. So it's always kind of cool little nods to the past and whatnot. I dig that. Now, one of the things that's kind of notable about this story, before we start getting into our cast and whatnot, WizKid. The rather annoying WizKid. Now, obviously, as a lot of people who are familiar with the story know, WizKid was intended as a shot at the fans, Doctor Who fans. He's essentially representative of the fan base, which was very critical of John Nathan Turner's era. And they felt that, well, hey, it's, the show's not as good as it used to be, which is, so when WizKid is talking about that later in the episode, that's a direct reference, just, just having, just that fan caricature of the the stereotypical fan, that feeling that, well, hey, the show's not as good as it used to be, and but I'm still interested. I still collect all the stuff, all nerdy and whatnot. And then they take the great pleasure in then killing him off.
Well,
in the process,
there's another thing too.
So I'm sure. Go ahead.
The Wiz kid likes to talk about how he knows everything about the psychic circus.
Yes.
And you just want to say, obviously not everything, because you don't know that you're going to die when you come.
Well, to be fair, that was kind of a late twist.
That is true, a late twist, but that's something that I think we see in fandom a lot, and I could go on a lot about this, and I won't, because we'll be here for days.
Yeah, exactly. You I'm sure have a lot of fan horror stories and whatnot. So
and it's not even fan specific horror stories. It's just fandom in general. There's a concept sometimes that fandom, the deeper it goes, comes with an allowance to be part of the production process.
Right.
Where that you think you're part, that the bigger the fan you are, you start to think you're part of the business. And, for something like comic books, it's the more you know about it, the more you think, oh, they should do this, 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 and this.
Right.
Or as comic book guy on The Simpsons says, as a loyal viewer, I feel they owe me. That sort of sense of being a part of the business, or a sense of entitlement to the fandom of whatever you're in, you're entitled to it being whatever you want it to be.
Exactly.
And this is a good example of, I collect everything. I know when you did this. I know when you did that. I have this poster, that poster. I know everything about it.
So therefore, I'm an authority on it.
I'm an authority.
And you should listen to what I say about it. Yeah.
But I'm obviously missing one huge part of the situation here.
Right.
And that's that people go to the psychic circus, but they don't ever come back. So somehow you missed that part.
Yeah, it's an important safety tip. Thanks, Egon.
Right, and I think that I sort of equate this to a lot of times when I'm trying to describe this to people.
Yeah. Is
if you ever go to a concert and there's somebody that yells out, "Play Freebird" or whatever, yell out their favorite song, and the nerdier the music fan, the more obscure the song they yell out.
Right. Just to show that they're the authority, like they're a fan from way back or what have you. Yeah.
They're a fan from way back. They have all of the bootlegs and the EPs and the rare singles, and they know all the rare B-sides.
And they're better than you are. Yeah.
And they're better than you are. And then they yell that out at a concert because they feel like they're entitled to hear what they want to hear. And the person that I think described this the best way is Jeff Tweedy, where he says, "We have rehearsed a show for you. You might be yelling out a song that I don't have the guitar for, or we don't have an instrument for, or we haven't rehearsed in 5 years, or what have you. You wouldn't go to a play. You wouldn't go to see Phantom of the Opera and yell out, 'What's the buzz?'" Yes, it's an Andrew Lloyd Webber play. Yes, "What's the Buzz" is an Andrew Lloyd Webber song, but that's from Jesus Christ Superstar and not from Phantom of the Opera.
Right. So
you wouldn't do that. So to think that you are entitled to interrupt a planned, rehearsed show just so you can hear what you want to hear is this sense of entitlement that makes you think that because I'm a fan, I'm part of this.
Yeah.
And you're part of the fan collective, but you're not part of the creating process, other than being an inspiration to someone who is inspired by the fact that he has fans. That's the end of it. And I think WizKid is a good example of that. Like, I know everything except this one very necessary piece of this.
Yeah, the one gap in his knowledge is the one that ultimately kills him as a result. Yeah. Exactly. So a little irony there in that. But yeah, you're right. You're completely dead on about the entitlement, the sense of entitlement that a lot of fans have. And obviously we've seen on the internet where that leads. So,
as a loyal viewer, I feel they owe me. And that's a perfect sentence encapsulation of exactly what is going on when this kind of thing happens.
And points for a second comic book guy reference this podcast.
It was the same comic book guy reference. I just reiterated it.
Nicely done. All right.
But when you're talking about fandom, he's a perfect example of what not to do.
Exactly. Because obviously he's a caricature of fandom as well, just like WizKid. Some of the guest cast in this episode, let's run this down. Ian Reddington, who played the chief clown in the story, is all kinds of creepy. He's notable, in addition, later on, in addition to doing a Big Finish audio, which was also a Seventh Doctor story called A Death in the Family with Sylvester McCoy. He played a villain named Nobody No One in that story. He's also recently in episodes of Outlander on Starz.
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of cool. Little trivia. Exactly, little trivia tidbits about the...
Little bit of trivia about Ian Reddington from this episode.
Yeah.
He cracked 2 teeth filming this episode.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, when the doctor gets... Well, the cage that they keep all of the performers in...
Yeah.
It has a door that goes up and down, which, of course... on a show like Doctor Who where there is zero money,
Yes.
that is done manually by two guys. And he was leaving, and somebody dropped the door too fast, and it got right on his head, and he cracked two of his back teeth.
Ouch.
So yeah, that was a rough one for him. But he was rewarded. At some point, he was named by the Doctor Who Appreciation Society as one of the best villains.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
He was a great villain. I think, if I remember, in the Doctor Who magazine, I think during that year, that season poll that they do, or they did, he was voted best villain. I think.
Yep.
If I remember correctly.
I think there were three, and he was one of them.
Yeah. Let's see.
So that worked in the end, but yeah, he cracked two of his back molars when that thing on the top of the head.
Yeah, I already mentioned T.P. McKenna as Captain Cook. Jessica Martin, who plays Mags, the werewolf in the story, she actually turned up in a modern New Who episode because she did the voice of Queen Elizabeth in Voyage of the Damned.
Oh.
So you watch that, next time you hear Queen Elizabeth going, talking like, "Thank you, Doctor," as the Starship Titanic flies right overhead, just narrowly missing Buckingham Palace, you can go, "Hey, that's Mags from Greatest Show in the Galaxy."
That's Mags, the neon werewolf.
Exactly. Remember, the royal family are werewolves. If you watched...
if you watch enough Doctor Who, you'll know that.
Exactly.
I am not...
From the 10th Doctor, and Rose taught us that one.
That's one of my favorite 10th Doctor and Rose episodes, is the werewolf one with Queen Victoria.
Yep. That's a good one. So just kind of cool. She also did another Big Finish 7th Doctor audio, just like Ian Reddington. She played a character named Janet Green in the story Signs and Wonders. And then she also played a character called a Deputy Surveyor Sutton in a 4th Doctor Big Finish audio with Tom Baker and Louise Jameson called Last of the Colophon. So she's continued to do more additional Doctor Who work, and she's going to be actually reprising Mags for Big Finish audio.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's kind of cool.
That's very cool.
Because she's essentially going to be becoming the 7th Doctor's companion for a few stories on Big Finish audio. So she's going to be like an audio. She'll be an audio companion as opposed to official TV companion. But
I will say that I kind of hoped that she would go with him at the end of this episode.
Right. And I mean, she's one of those characters, that have been scattered throughout Doctor Who's history that they almost become companions. Like, you could see them becoming companions. And you could definitely see Mags, I think, becoming a companion.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah, you sure could.
And so apparently Big Finish thought so as well, and that's why they're kind of doing that. So that's kind of cool. That's coming up soon. Rico Ross, who played, of course, the rapping ringmaster, the rather notorious rapping ringmaster, he was in the movie Aliens, believe it or not.
Yes,
he played a character named Private Frost, and he was also a security guard in the 1996 Mission Impossible movie, the first one with Tom Cruise.
I have seen none of those, so okay.
Yeah, but they're good. I mean, I know some people aren't Tom Cruise fans, but if you're a Mission Impossible fan like I am, so they're good action movies. That's my one Tom Cruise pass. Everything else I boycott, but I will watch the Mission Impossible movies because I'm more loyal to Mission Impossible than I am Tom Cruise.
I was tempted when, with Simon Pegg.
Yes.
Showed up.
Yeah, he's been in several of the movies. He plays one of the regular Benji in those.
Mm-hmm. And when Philip Seymour Hoffman was in one, I was like, ooh.
Yeah, that was Mission Impossible 3. Yeah, that was good. He was good in that one too.
Yeah, he's
a great villain. Great villain.
But still haven't given in. I've like literally only ever seen like 3 Tom Cruise movies.
No worries. That's no judgment here. You don't get that from me. And also, Rico Ross was in an episode of Babylon 5, which I thought was kind of cool.
Okay.
So, because I'm a big Babylon 5 fan. So, Christopher Guard, who played Bellboy, he's got a rather interesting trivia bit here. He played Frodo in the Lord of the Rings animated movie, the one from 1978, animated by Ralph Bakshi back in the day.
Is that who that is? Okay.
He's Master Frodo.
He sounded familiar, but he didn't look familiar.
Yeah, that's Bellboy from Greatest Show in the Galaxy.
All right.
Is that trippy or what?
That's awesome.
And
that is yet again a
yeah.
Tolkien Doctor Who person and being in Tolkien,
Yep.
just like Sylvester McCoy.
Exactly. Because yeah, we know that McCoy obviously in the Hobbit movies, so that's very cool. Daniel Peacock, I have to mention because he played Nord in the story. You know, the biker guy. He's obviously most notable because he did he was the character Bull in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, the Kevin Costner Robin Hood movie.
Oh, yeah. God, I haven't seen that in years.
Yeah. But appealing to you, I'm sure, he was the character, the dying man in the cabin in a Young Ones episode, Nasty.
Nasty, yes.
So... Obviously, Xan and I are both big Young Ones fans, so I had to kind of mention that before we...
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right, so that's a notable guest cast this time, so I had to run that down. All right, so let's get into our main topics. So, obviously, right off the bat, topic number one, I want to talk about the Seventh Doctor and Ace. So, Seventh Doctor, once again, trying to have Ace confront her fears. This time with a circus with clowns. And obviously it has some interesting results. The Doctor's a little far more naive, I think, about the whole circus thing. Not by the end of the episode, though.
Once again,
yeah,
Ace is right.
Exactly.
Ace is absolutely right. And
the Doctor would be much better off if he just listened to his companions.
And I gotta be honest with you, Charles.
Yeah.
If junk mail were to come to my house in the form of a little tiny spider robot, I'd probably open and read more of it.
Just because it teleports in, you don't have to go out to the mailbox to get it.
Just if this little spider robot just showed up in my living room going like, hey, you want to save some money on gutter cleaning? I'd be like, I think I do, spider robot. Tell me more.
You don't think the spider robot would be too intrusive, though?
Well, I think the cats would maybe freak out and maybe play with him a little bit, but I would just say...
Your cats would start chewing on him.
I would just say, well, you know what, little spider robot, you can go back and tell the gutter cleaning guy that it's just not my budget right now, but I'll keep his number and we can call him. So we'll see you next time when it's time for rug cleaning or when it's time to donate to the Volunteers of America.
Nice.
I'll see you then.
Yeah. Right. So there you go. So see, spider robots should be on our future, I guess. That's.
I hope so.
That's hilarious. Yeah, it's the utopia with spider robots.
But that is a major failing, though, of the TARDIS, that a spider robot, a junk mail spider robot can get into the TARDIS.
Well, that's what I want to know. I mean, because when the story starts off, the TARDIS is traveling in the vortex. How the hell does the spider robot get inside? And besides, the TARDIS, the TARDIS has all those, protective shields and whatnot to protect it from the time vortex. How the hell does that thing get in there?
It's the psychic part of the psychic circus.
Oh,
I think it was honing in on Ace's fear of clowns.
Right.
And it said, we got to win this one over.
I have a better theory for you.
All right, go for it.
My theory is that because the Doctor is the master manipulator, chess player, he summoned the robot and allowed it to get inside the TARDIS.
Oh, all right.
That's why he was all like, hey, Ace, why don't we go to the psychic circus? It sounds cool. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, say no more. So.
Have you been to the psychic circus?
Yeah.
What's it like?
Nice.
Thank you.
Well played.
Thank you very much.
I teed that one up for you. You just you knocked it out of the park. That's great.
I just knocked it back.
That's awesome. All right. Well, that's okay. I don't mind being the setup guy. So what did you think about the Seventh Doctor and Ace in this story? The Ace being forced once again to confront her fears. That's kind of a thing with the Seventh Doctor, especially in his last season, where season 26, the original series' final season, he's trying to get Ace to confront her fears, and it's kind of an interesting approach to a companion, I think.
True, but I think that he has seen
her past.
Yeah, and I think that we've seen that there are... The Doctor has seen many companions.
Right.
And the Doctor has seen many terrible things, and he's survived all of it. And it's interesting to go back and watch a Doctor that still has a home planet.
Right.
Because we don't have that doctor anymore.
Exactly.
And for him to know that you can persevere through pretty much anything, through trials and the Master and whatever Daleks and Cybermen and Autons and whatever the universe can throw at you, you can survive it. And he's had a lot of companions who have been either very afraid and that's been a problem, or you have to go back and rescue the companions, or they don't want to go to a certain place, or they're too afraid to jump when they need to jump. And
so you kind of think he's trying to work on her weaknesses so that if something comes up, she won't be afraid of it.
I think he's trying to make her realize that she is as strong as she thinks she can be. And Ace can do anything. She can do and be anything. And also, it's his way of teaching his companion that to go with him is not to run away from something, it's to run towards something.
Right. To face it.
To face the universe, not to run away from your life, but to face the universe.
Right.
And
not be afraid of what's out there.
Yeah, so I get why he's got that in the back of his mind, that we have to push ourselves to overcome seemingly irrational fears. Because when you're outside of the psychic circus and, the Southwest...
Right.
the Southwestern United States where John Wayne Gacy lived.
Yeah. Interesting comparison.
Clowns are pretty much nothing to be afraid of.
Right.
Okay. They're fairly benign creatures. Yeah.
Yeah.
Outside of literature, outside of Derry, Maine, it's probably not going to be a problem. So.
At least until it came along.
That's what I'm saying, Derry.
Yeah.
And it's been there since the dawn of time. But so he sort of knows, like, this is something that you really don't need to be afraid of. It's only, you need to be afraid of a specific bad clown, not clowns in general, that sort of a thing. And I think that was another thing that really kind of drew me into this episode, because as cheesy as it can be, that sort of lovable cheesiness that Doctor Who has with its low production value and
right. And at this point, it was like nothing. Literally.
It was $8.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I think 7 of that paid for craft services. And this episode, to me, is terrifying. Because I'm afraid of clowns. I'm with Ace on this.
So you have colorophobia, the fear of clowns.
Big time. So I get that. But then there's also a thing about the Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Where and you could sort of see it in the way Sylvester McCoy was pulling it off in this. Let's go to the circus. I mean, there's like this little kid in there that wants to go see the circus and eat popcorn and cotton candy and do all the circus type stuff.
Right. Yeah. He's all, he thinks it's cool. He's all excited about it. And Ace is just, the jaded teenager going, whatever, And then, especially when they get there, and there's like nobody there, they're in this darkened tent, and just like she's bored out of her freaking mind once they're there.
They're in the darkened tent, but when the lights come up and he gets the spotlight on him, and he gets chosen to be the next performer, he's really excited.
Yeah, he geeks out over it.
He really does. So he, you can tell that there's a little part of him that's like really excited that the circus is in town.
Yeah.
So.
And that's kind of like, that whole, he's lived for hundreds of years, at this point, before thousands of years. And he still has that childlike wonder about things, certain things.
That's one of the greatest things about the Doctor as a character, is that he has been everywhere and seen everything, but he knows that there's something new to see every day.
Right. He's even after everything he's done, he still knows there's more.
I think he has an optimism tempered by a small amount of healthy cynicism.
Yeah.
But the
optimism usually wins.
But the optimism wins, yeah. But he also knows that, but he's not jaded. He has absolutely no jadedness in him. Like, oh, here we go again. Another planet with purple trees. That's beautiful. Okay. He's not like that at all.
Yeah.
And even when you see something like the David Tennant 10th Doctor, where he's trying to figure out where to go with Rose, he's like, oh, this one place, you'll love it. It's this, this, and this. And you know he's been there 80 times, but
Right.
he wants to show it to her. And I think that's part of him having companions, is it helps remind him that there's something new to experience every day for everybody.
Well, and it's like he's talked about that, like he may have seen it before, but he kind of gets to look through it like with new eyes through the eyes
Right.
of his companions.
But his new
he gets to kind of experience it all over again with them.
Right, his new experience is being able to show it to someone.
Right, exactly.
Not necessarily see it for the first time, but he gets to show it to someone.
Yeah, he gets to. He's the guy who's like, okay, let me show you this really cool thing, and then the companion enjoys it, and then he enjoys the companion enjoying it.
And he enjoys being somebody who provides the enjoyment.
Right, exactly.
Who makes that happen.
That satisfaction, like, hey, I made my, one of my best friends happy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so he is an optimist with a healthy dose of cynicism, but he is never jaded.
Yeah.
And I like that about the Doctor. I think that makes him a really wonderful character.
That's essentially the show in general, which I thought was Craig Ferguson summed this up so brilliantly. If you remember caught the bit that he did when he was doing the Late Show, where he did that whole Doctor Who song, and he's talking about that intellect and romance triumph over brute force and cynicism, which I think sums up Doctor Who perfectly.
It really does.
It's the optimism. It's it's like, hey, we're going to use our brains, and we're going to and we're going to have fun, and we care about each other and whatnot. And that's more important than all the jaded, horrible stuff, and all the and the nasty people trying to just bring you down.
We are here to have experiences.
Yes.
And we're going to do it.
Exactly. And we're going to have fun doing it. Exactly.
Yes.
It's all part of the fun adventure. Come along with us. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So we talked about Sylvester McCoy doing the physical stuff with the gods of Ragnarok at the end of the episode. I was a little, we'll talk about the gods here in a minute, but I was a little fuzzy on how the Doctor kind of figured that out.
The stones.
Okay.
Remember at the beginning when they first see the ring, and he sees, the ancient stones, and I think he's been mulling that over the whole time, trying to figure out where those came from. So that's what clued him in.
Right. I think you're right. I think that's a good point. The Doctor, obviously, before that, he encounters all these various people. He's not very fond of Captain Cook.
Why would you be?
I know, exactly.
I mean, how do you
but he allows himself to get actually, like, the master manipulator kind of gets checkmated by Captain Cook. So I was kind of surprised by that.
Well, that's the thing, is he gets check, but he doesn't get checkmated.
That's true. You're right.
He checkmates the captain. What I don't get is, how does the captain become a captain when you're such a coward? I mean, that's his whole thing is, oh, no, he's sort of helping them find new performers so he doesn't have to perform.
Yeah, and then we might as well get into our Captain Cook discussion while we're at it. He's really good, or everybody else is really stupid at, getting them in the ring before him. I mean, he's just back there, he's kicking back in his cell, and he's just, he's sipping on tea, like, no big deal, and it's like, maybe in between the acts, he talks to try to convince somebody that, hey, I think you would be a much better performer, and you should go on before me. I'll allow you this, because I believe in you, or whatever.
That's what he does with WizKid. He's like, here's what I'm going to do for you.
Exactly. He's doing them this big favor by letting them go to their deaths.
Right, and that's I think when it comes to the captain being able to do that, is everybody who has come to the circus is so excited to be there.
Right.
Because as you see with the cart vendor, they come from all over to see that stupid circus. There's just people are so excited to be there that I think their senses take their leave a little bit, and I think that's what happens to the Doctor, where even the Doctor's like, I'm smarter than this. How did I let this happen?
Yeah, like he got all caught up
Yes.
in the whole, the excitement over the circus. Like, hey, this, like, cool, this is good. Let's just check this out. And then he ends up kind of getting like not paying attention to what's going on, really.
Exactly. He's getting too
Right.
wrapped up in the circus part of it and not figuring out what's really going on fast enough.
Right. Now he's traveling with Mags. Captain Cook is.
Mm-hmm.
And we get a little background that she's apparently from the planet Volpana, and at some point she became a werewolf. I don't know if she's just naturally a werewolf or something happened to her. Like obviously like in a werewolf movie where they get bit and turned into a werewolf. But um, it's an interesting companion, and with Mags, obviously, whenever she sees even an image of the moon, she turns into this dangerous werewolf.
I think she was bitten by a highlighter marker. She's very, very neon.
She is very. Yeah, that was one of the things that when we finally get to see her transform. You're right. She has this very like fluorescent green makeup on. It's very 80s. So
it's very 80s.
And she's got the big spiky hair. Like I have spiky hair, but nowhere near what Mags had.
No.
And I mean it's like Tina Turner spiky. If you remember how Tina Turner wore her hair back in the 80s.
Yeah, the Tina Turner private dancer hair.
Yeah, exactly.
And she has these neon yellow fingernails.
Yes. Like the Lee press-on claws.
They just take the neon and take it and run with it for that. So
yeah,
So there's got to be something with Mags and the Captain where,
he doesn't have her chained up or caged or anything. She goes along willingly, presumably, but I'm kind of wondering why she stays with him.
Part of me wonders if she's trying to figure out a way to help other people that come to the circus. So, I'm not sure because she seems like
her motivations are a little vague on this one.
Yeah, she seems like he'd be the first one she would kill when it was the full moon.
Right, exactly, and especially if she's all she has to do is look up at a picture of the moon and she transforms. Mm-hmm. So right, you would think that could happen at any moment, and you would think he would know that.
Yeah, you'd think so. They get her to transform in the ring for the gods of Ragnarok by just putting a lighting effect, a light where they put in a
right.
They put in a gel that looks like the moon.
Yeah.
And boom, there she is.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that's all about, but all right.
It's Doctor Who. Doctor Who. You roll with it.
Other planet werewolf rules are not Earth werewolf rules, and
okay.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, so you're okay with alien werewolf rules?
I don't know what werewolf rules are on her planet. I've never been there. I don't know how those werewolves work. I only know how the Earth werewolves work. I've only ever been to Earth.
Right. So we don't even know if silver bullets could kill her.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, well, he does imply that.
Right.
Which is, how we.
But maybe he doesn't know. Maybe he's just guessing.
Yeah, she seems adequately threatened when he says it. So
that's true.
I don't
know.
Who knows?
Interesting. But ultimately, of course, Mags kills Captain Cook. And there was much rejoicing. Ray. But unfortunately, he comes back from the dead, animated by the gods of Ragnarok for a brief time. And then he gets finally taken out for good.
And I love how he looks like...
Takes a long walk off of a short cliff face, and that's it.
He kind of falls into the eyeball. But,
gravity is not his friend.
I love how he looks like some sort of 1800s, taming of the wild continent of Africa.
Exactly. He's rocking the pith helmet or whatever, and yeah.
Right. Like he was helping build the railroad when the Ghost in the Darkness attacked all those people.
I keep wanting to know if, do you know the Phantom?
Seriously, did you help the Phantom's father?
Yeah.
or like, are you Dr. Livingston? Like, what's the deal here? Like,
Yeah. Now, see, if this is Ghostwood, that would segue into a Billy Zane discussion, but I'm not going to do that here.
we can segue into a Billy Zane
I
discussion.
figured you would want to.
I don't care what we're talking about. You want to talk about Billy Zane in that purple skin tight outfit? Anytime, any day of the week.
I knew it. I opened that Pandora's box and it just all flew out. All right.
I just want to talk about Billy Zane's skin tight outfit. I don't care what show or movie it is.
Yeah. All right. So, anything else about the Captain Cook and Mags before we move on?
They're an interesting couple because I loved her, I hated him.
Yeah. And we were glad that she killed him. Briefly.
We were very glad. And I was glad it was her. Because
well, it's very fitting.
Wonder, well, like you said, why is she with him? So you started to wonder, does he have something on her?
Yeah.
Or is this some sort of Stockholm Syndrome problem?
Yeah.
And so you're glad it was her.
Well, the one last thing I just thought of this when you were talking about this. One of the things that kind of bugged me about Mags was the doctor saying at the end, she's all worried that she doesn't have control over being a werewolf. And he goes, don't worry, Mags, you'll figure it out. You already have. And I'm thinking, when did she figure that out? Because she killed Captain Cook not by choice, because she was out of control. Right?
Oh, yeah, that's a good... I don't know. Maybe
it just seemed like a really odd statement by the doctor. I was like, well, maybe they intended something to happen in the script and they deleted a scene or something and it didn't really make sense. I don't know.
Gonna have to watch Greatest Show in the Galaxy again. Oh no.
Oh no. Yeah, do your little like shoulder shrug emoji thing.
Yep.
Yeah, with your slashes and your all that keyboard stuff. Yep. All right. Topic number 3. Might as well talk about the Psychic Circus. And so this will be like all the characters, the Ringmaster, Morgana, and whatnot, and also the gods of Ragnarok, of course.
I think Morgana is exactly like anybody you ever see at a circus that's like her.
Yeah.
Who talks like she's some sort of
gypsy
Eastern
queen.
European gypsy,
yes.
But really just some cockney British lady.
Yes, exactly. She's the stereotypical gypsy fortune teller.
Yes.
And when she's not on, and I'm using that in the air quotes on.
Mm-hmm.
She's talking with just like either her natural accent or whatever. It's obviously all a shtick that she puts on for the rubes, and she plays that up for the hilt. She's basically working in this episode along with the ringmaster just to like, hey, we're gonna, instead of escaping, which I thought was kind of interesting, because apparently they can't escape from the psychic circus.
Well, that's what, and they're sort of working together to just sort of survive.
Exactly.
Because they're in this situation.
They're like, hey, come on in, so we could sacrifice you and stay alive.
Yeah, we need to stay alive. Otherwise, we're going to have to go and entertain these gods, and that ain't going to happen. So,
well, actually, it does happen, as it turns out.
Yeah, it does. It does happen eventually. The thing about the psychic circus is we only get some glimpses of its backstory.
Right.
That it's been going on for quite a long time. They've been going from planet to planet to galaxy to galaxy to be basically a traveling circus. But when they come here to the stones and where the gods of Ragnarok are, then they get stuck. They get stuck by the gods.
Right.
And they've been stuck there for so long that, and there's something I think that is trying to be said about what happened to hippies in the 1980s.
I think you're right. I think that is a kind of a metaphor in this
story. There's some sort of metaphor of how hippies all started out as free and altruistic and loving,
right,
but now they're just a cog in the machine.
Yeah, they're basically wiped out because, like, hey, they used to be all these fun, freewheeling hippies, right, and whatever they ended up being corrupted, and
right, and
eventually gotten rid of.
Right, and they have literally forgotten where they came from, as you see with Bellboy. Now Flower Child, she kind of remembers what's going on, and she's trying to fight to get everything back to the way it was, but that doesn't end very well for her.
No.
But
She gets
Bellboy
killed in the
kind of
first
forgets,
episode, so yeah.
Bellboy forgets a lot of what's going on, and so does
Deadbeat. Deadbeat.
Deadbeat. Yes,
Yeah,
Deadbeat.
Deadbeat essentially, um,
He's been completely brainwashed by the power of the stones and the gods
right,
and the eye.
and it's only at the end when he gets a hold of the necklace
Hmm.
with with the eye on it that
Well, he's got the necklace. He needed the eyeball from the bus
right,
to make it whole again.
exactly. But it's not until then that his memory comes back.
Hmm.
Fortunately, in time to save Ace from the bus conductor.
Oh, I love the bus conductor so much.
Tickets, please.
Tickets, please.
Yeah, one of those creepy robots creepy homicidal robot. You can never go wrong with a creepy homicidal robot.
Well, and Doctor Who is so great at that because you've got the Cybermen, you've got the Autons, and then you've got this guy who's adorable with his cute little copper face and
exactly. So it's one of those that, like, he looks cutesy, but there's enough with that, like the rust on the copper, that there, like, he's got a little sinister edge to him.
It's like a playground that you really shouldn't touch anything.
Exactly.
That you're probably
and that blank expression, kind of like a Cyberman.
Exactly. Like if you play in this playground, it looks fine, but you're going to need tetanus shot afterwards.
Exactly.
And he has this little ticket machine that is now like a laser shooter. I mean, I thought he was so great.
Right.
But yeah, there's they've gotten stuck in this one place, being a cog of the machine.
Right.
And so yeah, there's something they're trying to say about, I think, what happened to hippies when they lost, because that's
they got overrun by the corporate machine.
I don't know, if you've ever seen the movie The Big Chill, you have all these hippies who became all these rich.
Yeah, they grew up and became like suburban white people. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And the one who couldn't do that,
they became everything they railed against.
They became everything they railed against, and the one who didn't fall into that is the one who committed suicide.
Mm-hmm.
So there's
message Spock. Yes.
So yeah, they've gotten stuck for sure.
Yeah, I'd say so. And I think you're dead on about the metaphor too. I think that's a very observant. Gods of Ragnarok, I thought were kind of interesting because they're not. This isn't like the gods aren't exactly traditional Norse gods here.
No.
So it's like like of Ragnarok obviously being the kind of like Norse apocalypse.
Like the end of the world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And obviously, like the third Thor movie, but they don't really have any Norse connections, which I thought was kind of interesting. And
they're more like the they're more like Gator games. They're more like Roman.
Okay, you kind of froze up there, so I was kind of wondering.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They're more like they're from Roman times, where what they're doing is they're watching gladiator games to see who lives and who dies.
Yeah, basically the ring is an arena, and so they're basically you've got people inside going dun 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 dun. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So they're very different, and there's technically three of them. One is Rag, one is Nar, one is Rock.
Hey, Ock. Hey, Ock.
Yeah, and so it's kind of a different take on the whole Ragnarok thing, but they're just these ancient gods made out of ancient stone with their ancient talisman stones, and now that they're being entertained, they're not going to let anybody go, and their idea of entertainment is really screwed up.
Okay, everybody, we're back from our slight technical difficulties. Please stand by. And hopefully now we can finish up our Doctor Who discussion about the Gods of Ragnarok. Okay, so the Gods of Ragnarok, I talked about that they, did you hear me when I talked about that they weren't based on Norse mythology? Okay.
We talked about that.
Right, we talked about that, okay.
About how they were more Roman gladiator type.
Yes, exactly. And they fought in the ring, and we did the whole Star Trek thing and all that. Okay, cool.
We did the Star Trek thing, yeah.
We did the Star Trek thing. All right. So the Doctor ends up facing these gods after figuring it out. And we talked about earlier how he figured that out. And thank you for explaining that to me, because it always seems like, well, how did he know? But then I also remembered that the doctor says he fought the gods of Ragnarok. He's been fighting them for some time, even though we've never seen them before on the show, and never saw them again on the show.
Everything is wibbly wobbly, timey wimey.
It's all timey wimey. So essentially, off camera, the Doctor has been fighting the gods of Ragnarok, and it's just only in this story where we actually get to see that happen.
We don't see every waking moment of the Doctor.
No,
so he has friends outside of us,
No, I don't think so. I think we're his bestest friends.
We're his best friends, and we should do everything together.
Exactly. Not that we're codependent or anything, but...
Oh, not that we're needy.
Not that we're needy. So it's kind of interesting that we have they're basically like an off-camera recurring villain, which I don't think happens very often. Obviously, that leaves a lot of potential for bringing them back in the modern era, preferably with better special effects budget. Now, they get taken out. The Doctor essentially causes their whole temple to crumble somehow, even though after he was just tied up and whatnot, he gets himself free. He does some things with a necklace, like they fire their little pew 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 laser beams at him, and he deflects those with the necklace.
Yes.
So good thing they're like really good aim. They have really good aim and can hit that necklace perfectly each time.
That's what they're aiming for. They're aiming for the eye.
Yeah.
The all-seeing eye.
And so he uses that on them, and then basically there's that shot, this really cool shot where Sylvester McCoy walks out of the circus tent and does the whole like he's in an action movie. Walks off as an explosion goes off behind him, and he doesn't look back. All badass.
It's so badass, and that's when I was saying at the beginning of this episode that he can be the goofiest of the goofy with the goofiest dad jokes. There's a point in here where he does something and he says, "Just the ticket," and you're like, okay, that's not what you say when you kill the ticket-taking robot. Okay, Dad. That's
the kind of Schwarzenegger action movie thing. The one-liner.
Yeah.
Ice to see you, that kind of thing. Yeah.
The consider it a divorce. Yeah. So,
exactly.
A bit of trivia about that scene you're talking about, where he walks out of the tent and it just blows up on him.
I was going to mention that, but go ahead. You can do it.
It was a little bit more of a blast than anyone expected it to be.
Yeah, Sylvester got a little crispy fried, didn't he?
He said that
he got a little cooked, but he's okay.
He was expecting that the entire back of his clothing was going to be burned up.
Yeah. Well, apparently he caught fire on some of his clothes, but he knew that apparently there wasn't going to be a retake.
Right. There were 90 cameras on it, so they knew they only had the one time to do it.
So he just ignored it.
He just kept going. Yeah.
Yeah.
The blast was so intense.
Yeah.
That it caught fire to fireproof material that they had built the tent out of. So that's pretty badass of Sylvester McCoy to just walk away from fire.
That's a pro, man. That's right. Fire.
Yeah. That was pretty impressive. But yeah, he just walks away with his umbrella, okay, what's next, y'all?
Yep, exactly. Yep. That's his drop the umbrella move there.
Seriously.
Instead of before drop the mic, obviously. But yeah, it was very cool, and thankfully we didn't lose Sylvester McCoy in that.
Seriously.
Yeah, that would have been slightly awkward, and especially for him. All right. So, anything else about the Psychic Circus and Gods of Ragnarok? As we try to get back on track here.
No, aside from the fact that the clockwork robotic clowns are freaking terrifying.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
So even not just there was obviously the chief clown who's just creepy because he's creepy.
Well, the chief clown and his gang of Pagliacci enforcers is just driving around the desert in a hearse. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's a very interesting look. So you've got the chief clown, who's basically a Pierrot style clown, like he was right out of a David Bowie video.
He looks like Pagliacci the clown.
Yeah, exactly. And so yeah, like you said, he's got his robot clown henchmen that were built by Bellboy.
Yep.
And for some reason, they travel around in a hearse through the desert or whatever, all this rocky landscape, bringing people back that try to escape.
It's actually a quarry in Dorset. That's where they.
Yes,
that's where it's filmed.
But I think it's supposed to be like a desert.
It's supposed to be like a desert, like a desolate planet where the only thing that's there is really the psychic circus.
Right, in the middle of nowhere. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, except for with that stall lady or whatever that hates all those weirdos.
She hates all the weirdos, but she'll sell them disgusting melon that you apparently have to eat with your hands.
Yes.
I don't know what that was all about.
Delicious, madam.
Yeah, but ever so filling.
I would not eat that. I would just say, like, sorry, Professor, but I'm not eating this.
You're like, this is yum. Yeah, it's not. You feed it to the dog.
Even Homer Simpson wouldn't eat that, I don't think.
Probably not, yeah. So,
but
I don't know. Purple is a fruit.
Nice. All right. Anything else about this episode before we move on to our rating?
Not really, no.
Or favorite lines, rather, I should say. Favorite lines, we'll do that first. But, yeah, just a very interesting episode. And so this was your gateway to Sylvester McCoy and Ace, and that's cool.
Gateway to Sylvester McCoy and Ace, yes, and I have a major soft spot for it. I know it has some cheesy moments, but you get past the cheesiness of those clowns, those things are freaking terrifying.
Now, yeah, for having zero budget, I have to give credit to the production people because, for one thing, this episode almost didn't get finished because, like Shada, the Tom Baker story, there was like a whole big asbestos scare in the BBC studios. So
they had to take the tent and move it to the parking lot of Elstree Studios. Yeah. Not even Elstree Studios, the parking lot of Elstree Studios. So what does that tell you about the budget constraints of Doctor Who? It's like, we're going to go to the famous Elstree Studios where Star Wars was filmed.
There are
we probably go in the parking lot. That's as far as we can get at Elstree Studios.
I'm pretty sure there are YouTube fan films with more budget than what classic Doctor Who had during its final years.
Seriously, I know, right?
It's crazy, but credit to them, and it actually looks pretty cool given their budget. You know, the making use of that billowy tent cloth, and lighting and whatnot to make that work.
They just had to set it up in a parking lot. That's all they could do.
Exactly, and they pulled it off. Sometimes innovation is the what is it? Necessity is the best motivation for innovation. Yeah, got it.
That's the mother of invention.
Yep, that's it. All right. I'm glad you got the quote right because I totally mangled that. All right. I botched that one. I'll admit it.
Just got to think about Frank Zappa when you think about that quote. Okay. You'll remember it.
I was more Moon Unit Zappa than Frank Zappa, but...
Oh, well, of course you were.
That's fine. I'm an 80s guy. What do you expect? All right.
I'm more of an Ahmet Zappa, by the way.
Okay.
If we're ranking Zappas, Ahmet's my favorite.
I think we pretty much covered our Zappas, haven't we?
Well, there's Dweezil's in there, too.
Oh, that's right, Dweezil. I forgot about Dweezil.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Stand corrected. Obviously, well played. All right. Do you have any favorite lines of this story?
Shut up and eat your popcorn.
Nice.
That's probably my favorite one. Just shut up and eat your popcorn.
So the gods of Ragnarok, as they're, the mom, dad, and little girl guys.
Mm-hmm.
The mom tells the little girl to shut up and eat her popcorn because she's whining about, I'm bored.
Yeah. And then I'm also a big fan of when the doctor finally comes around and he says to Ace, "You're absolutely right. Clowns can be creepy." It's like, yeah, duh, doctor.
Yeah.
I could have told you that.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, anybody that's watched any Stephen King or what have you could tell you that. Pee-wee's Big Adventure,
right. Poltergeist, I don't need to name
on and on and on. Yeah, exactly.
Poltergeist is what did it to me, but I'm not. Poltergeist is what did it to me, and the nail in the coffin was Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
That's a good one. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that whole dentist scene, or that surgery scene with all the clown doctors. That's
the bike surgery.
Yes, that was pretty messed up. All right.
That is one of my favorite pieces that Danny Elfman ever wrote, though, is that particular scene right there.
Right. Well, he's always Danny Elfman's always good at that kind of circus, like twisted circus kind of music.
He's perfect for that.
Bum, 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 bum. Yeah, that whole thing.
Done it. Done it. Done it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Great.
We saw Beetlejuice. Yeah, exactly. So one of the lines that I liked was you have the bus conductor going, "Any more fares?" And the doctor replies, "I would like a ticket, actually. I'd like there to be a back-off peak weekend break super saver, senior citizen bi-monthly season with optional added facilities and a free cup of coffee in a plastic glass and crocodile sandwich, and make it snappy, you mechanical moron."
And he just like overheats trying to process that command.
Yeah, exactly. And then the bus conductor just is like, and freezes out.
I just love how the doctor just comes up with that off the cuff, just all of those.
Right.
All of those caveats for his ticket. That was great.
Yeah, that was a good line. And Sylvester McCoy, kudos for rattling that off so well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good job.
I couldn't even do that justice, but I tried. All right. Do you have any more quotes?
No, those were
Okay.
my two
Right.
favorites.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
What about you? You have any more?
Let's see. I have. Let's see. The doctor and Captain Cook. The doctor just gets handed some clubs, juggling clubs. He goes, "What am I supposed to do with these?" And Captain Cook says, "Practice juggling, I suppose. Your chances of survival in the ring are better, of course, if you keep them entertained." The doctor replies, "Why? Did they let you out again?" And Captain Cook responds, "No, but you last longer."
Ah,
Very ominous. And the doctor, there's another line I liked where the doctor's telling the gods of Ragnarok, "You're not interested in beginnings. You're only interested in endings."
Mm-hmm.
Talking about their tendency to kill people. And this one great exchange between Ace and the doctor at the very end of the story, where Ace says, "Sometimes I think it's you that's crazy, not deadbeat here." And the doctor replies, "Anybody remotely interesting is mad in some way or another."
That is so true.
And that's a great line. Yes.
Yeah, that's a fantastic line. But yeah, that's totally
true. Yeah. So madness makes you interesting. So I should be the most interesting person in the world. No. No. But anyway. All right. Do you have a rating for this story?
I do.
What's your rating?
I have 8 out of 10 spiral gold earrings.
Oh, you took mine. I'm gonna.
Oh no!
You did. I was.
I've ever taken yours.
Yep, it was bound to happen eventually. That's okay. I was going to go with flower child earrings, so I'll give you that one. I'll say 8 out of 10 bus conductors.
That's a good one.
Yep. So, tickets, please.
Tickets, please. Just the ticket.
Yeah, just the ticket. That's the ticket. Yeah. Like Tommy Flanagan from Saturday Night Live with his wife, Morgan Fairchild.
With his Morgan Fairchild, yeah.
That's a ticket. There's a dated reference for you. Yep.
John Lovitz.
John Lovitz. Yeah, before he went John Lovitz. No.
I love me some John Lovitz.
Yep. All right. Let's see. So, reverse the polarity this week. So we're going to reverse the polarity, the neutron flow. And then we're going to reverse it again because we're going back. We're going forward, in time. Trying to come up with an episode kind of like The Greatest Show in the Galaxy was a little tough because we don't have any like space circus type episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to pick Kerblam, which was just on recently. It's Series 11. The 7th episode is Series 11 in 2018, just last year, written by Pete McTighe. So this is a 13th Doctor story that just happened.
Okay.
Inside the TARDIS, the 13th Doctor, Ryan, Yaz, and Graham are hurtling through the time vortex when suddenly a robotic man who looks an awful lot like the bus conductor but isn't the bus conductor. Seriously, compare the photos. It's pretty close. In a postal outfit, teleports into the TARDIS. So we have, again, somebody that just teleported into the TARDIS.
Wow, the TARDIS needs some sort of firewall software.
Right. Yeah, so that's
McAfee for the TARDIS.
Exactly.
You can get McAfee for Mac and McAfee for Windows, but you can't get it for the TARDIS.
Or maybe AdBlock on Google Chrome.
Some sort of cookies or pop-up blocker or something.
Exactly. So holding a red and white box, the robot in the postal outfit makes a delivery for the Doctor. The doctor gives an ecstatic yelp, telling her friends that it's the Kerblam Man. And Yaz notices something on the strange on the packing card. Written on the back are 2 words, help me. Not like the fly, help me. Like, help me. Graham and Yaz convince the doctor that it might be worth checking that out. So the doctor agrees and travels to Kerblam's main office on the moon of Kandoka. The galaxy-wide online shopping service consists of automated warehouses and a creepy robotic workforce. So there's another connection to the greatest show in the galaxy where you have creepy robots walking around, known as teammates. Under the guise of being new employees, the group attempt to find out who sent the call for help. They quickly learn from their new colleagues, Dan Cooper, Kira Arlo, and Charlie Duffy, a maintenance worker that loves Kira, that the staff have been vanishing in recent months. When Dan disappears while finding an order for his new friend Yaz, the doctor suspects something is wrong with the company's artificial intelligence and automated workforce. Human resource managers Judy Maddox and Jarvis Slade quickly deny involvement when confronted about the disappearances. When Kira is abducted, the doctor tracks her to the completely automated packaging and delivery floor. After finding the remains of the missing workforce and an army of teammates holding packages, the doctor uses an early model of teammate to speak with a Kerblam's AI. She quickly learns that the AI is the one that called for her help, and after suspecting that something was wrong with its workforce. After Yasmin, Ryan, and Charlie see Kira die while playing with bubble wrap that explodes, so we've got exploding stuff going on, the doctor realizes that someone weaponized the bubble wrap, intending for it to be used on Kerblam's customers.
You know, if you just said this phrase, weaponize the bubble wrap to me, if you said that apropos of nothing, I would know you were talking about Doctor Who.
Pretty much, right?
Yeah.
That is a very Doctor Who-ish concept, exploding bubble
very
wrap.
Much. Yep.
Because that's what the kids could play with at home and pretend that, hey, I got exploded by the bubble wrap. So, very traditional Doctor Who stuff. Charlie admits to being the culprit, explaining that Kira's deaths wasn't part of his plan. So nice guy Charlie turns out to be the bad guy. He reveals that his motive was to prevent automation from making human workforces redundant and use the missing staff as test subjects. He intended to use it on Kerblam's customers, knowing that people would blame the deaths upon automation and a lack of human diligence. The doctor reprograms the teammates to deliver to themselves, however, and pop the wrap, which ultimately they destroy themselves, basically. As the others leave the floor's destruction, Charlie stays behind and gets killed. So well done there. In the aftermath, Maddox and Slade plan to rebuild Kerblam with a mostly human workforce, while Yaz asks the doctor if she can take her to visit Dan's daughter to return his necklace and tell her how much her father loved her. Aww.
That's end. Very nice.
So, but this is a very offbeat story. The tone's very similar to The Greatest Show in the Galaxy, even though you don't have creepy clowns, you have creepy robots. So that's my. And again, you have somebody that looks an awful lot like a robot that looks an awful lot like the bus conductor.
That's pretty good.
Very similar. So that's my recommendation.
That's something that we have no shortage of in Doctor Who, which is creepy robots.
Creepy robots. Creepy robots are like a staple of Doctor Who.
Right, and I think coming up for you is going to be The Girl Who Waited. And
that's coming soon. Yes.
Yeah, and you want to talk about some creepy robots?
Those are good. Those are some creepy robots.
Some of the creepiest.
Because they have needles, and what's creepier than creepy robots? But creepy robots with needles.
That's just seriously.
Yeah, so we'll be talking about that soon.
Yep. So you like how I worked in a little plug there for you?
I see that. I appreciate that. Yeah.
How I did that?
We're tease that future episode. Yes.
For me, I'm going to be that jackass that pulls the B-side out and yells out the B-side. And for this one, I'm going to recommend From Out of the Rain, which is actually a Torchwood episode.
Ooh.
And this one is...
I liked how you had a recommendation. That's awesome.
Am I allowed to have a recommendation?
You can have whatever you want. You have free reign. We've known each other for so long. You can do whatever you want. I'm cool with it.
I thought I was supposed to have a recommendation.
No, it's right. If you notice, it says Charles next to the reverse the polarity on the.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay, but that's okay. I'm cool with it. You did the you did the work. You might as well talk about it.
Sorry. Well, yes, the Torchwood episode from Out of the Rain is where the old movie house in Cardiff gets converted into a local history museum.
Yeah.
And they find this old film of these weird night circus performers.
Oh.
Who
I forgot about that.
Yeah, what happens is when you play them on film, you can release them from their prison in the same way you can capture them by getting them on film also. But what happens is they start running amok throughout Cardiff and taking people's life breath out of them.
Right.
Just sort of taking their last breath and creating this horde of zombies, essentially. And some people they find one. Jack, of course, has remembered these people because Jack's been alive for thousands of years.
Right.
But they find an old woman who remembers that her entire family was taken by these night traveling circus people, and there became this legend that whenever any sort of traveling circus came to town, children should hold their breath to make sure that they weren't taken away.
That's cool.
So, and this is in Torchwood after they use that glove to bring Owen back to life.
Yeah, the resurrection glove. Yeah.
Yeah. So after they do that, so they try to attack Owen.
The gauntlet or whatever.
Yeah, they try to attack Owen, and he's already dead. So the head night traveler, the ghost maker, is what they call him. He tries to get Owen's life breath, and he looks at him and he says, "What on earth are you? There's not a breath in your sad, cold body."
I forgot about that line, yes.
He says, "You are of no use to me," and just walks away. So if you like the concept of creepy circuses, I highly recommend this Torchwood episode.
I totally forgot about that, so thank you for reminding me of that.
Sure, thanks for letting me be the jackass that pulls out the B-side.
No, that's cool. I like it. I love that you did that. That's awesome. That was a nice surprise. Thank you for doing that. All right. So there you go. You got a bonus reverse the polarity this time. This time was Xan, too.
Stuff to watch. Plenty of stuff to watch.
Excellent. All right. So check that out. So check that Torchwood episode as well. We do have some listener feedback, thankfully. Holly from Wisconsin, one of our regular emailers, writes in. She's been killing it on the email lately. She's been doing awesome. She's booked up for the next few episodes. She's already sent me emails, so she's on it. She goes, Holly writes in, "Hey, Charles and Xan." So Xan getting a little shout out from Holly.
Hey, thanks, Holly.
Yeah. Always nice to have the new people get the reference here. It's been a while since I've seen The Greatest Show in the Galaxy, and I have to say that I think I enjoyed it more this time around, killer robot clowns aside. Love the scenes with the Doctor playing his spoons and juggling. Yep, once again we get to see Sylvester McCoy playing the spoons like he did in Time on the Ronnie, right?
That's right.
Yeah, that's when so obviously he's a big spoon player. My dad can do that. I can't do that, but my dad can. Little side there. This is almost a nightmarish version of a magical mystery tour, except that it's dealing in performances in the circus and hoping that you entertain. The robot ticket taker, I'm presuming she means the bus conductor, reminded me of a misfit Cyberman, except no ticket upgrades. No ticket.
He is kind of like that. He's got that big head, and he looks kind of cute, but no, he's not.
Yeah, see, he should have delivered the Harrison Ford line, no ticket from Indiana Jones' The Last Crusade. No ticket.
Yeah, exactly.
And thrown him right off the bus. The reveal of Mags being a werewolf still surprised me. I'd forgotten that she also looks as if she could fit in with the Kangs. And there's another Paradise Towers reference.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Kangs are best, that whole thing, Red Kang, Blue Kangs, those guys. Again, it's very 80s, especially Sylvester McCoy era Doctor Who. I'll wrap it up here. Holly from Wisconsin. So thank you, Holly, for writing in. Always lovely to hear from you.
We got to get Holly to become a Twin Peaks fan.
I know, right?
Yeah.
That would be good. She's so good with the email. So, Holly, you should watch Twin Peaks. And then you should listen to Ghostwood, and you should write in about what we talk about on Ghostwood. That would be great.
I think you'd have a great time with Twin Peaks.
I think you would, too. So, yeah. All right. So, next time on Next Stop Everywhere, we're going to talk Dalek. And this was the 6th episode of New Who from way back in 2005. 14 years ago now. The Christopher Eccleston era of all of one season before he before he quit.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and say what my favorite line from this episode is, because I don't get to be your guest host on this episode, but I love Christopher Eccleston confronting the Dalek and yelling, "The universe is dustbin! How does it fail?" I just love that. I love that delivery so much.
Well, Eccleston always has this intensity, and that's obviously something we're going to talk about when we talk about Dalek. But Jesse Jackson's returning for that one. So the original Partners in Time will be back to talk Dalek from the Christopher Eccleston story next time on episode 140. So please check that out as we get ever closer to Next Stop-ish episode 150.
Oh.
Yeah, no, we've done almost 150 of these things. Crazy, right?
You got a lot of material to work with. That's the good part.
Well, only 55 years of Doctor Who, right? Now going on 56. So, and not to mention Torchwood, Sarah Jane Adventures, Big Finish Audios, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. No, it's not like we're running out of material here, to say the least.
I think you're going to be fine for a while.
Especially when, we got Series 12 to go through in 2020, beginning of the year. So, whenever the show comes back. So, we got that. All right. So, if you want to be like Holly and you want to write in, and please do, because we always loved hearing from everybody out there, please reach out to us at nextstopsmg@gmail.com. That's nextstopeverywheresmg, short for, of course, Southgate Media Group, at gmail.com. At the Gmail.
At the Gmail.
I had to throw that in because we do that on Ghostwood.
That's our thing.
That's our thing. Yep. The Gmail. And,
interestingly enough, Charles, when I was testing my new headphones today.
Yes, you did Gmail?
No, I just went to YouTube and I chose a strong bad email.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Very nice. You can't go wrong with strong bad.
No, you cannot.
No, not the strong bad. All right. Or you can reach us on Twitter at nextstopsmg on Twitter. You can reach us there. Please follow us. That'd be great. Or on our Facebook page, Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast, where, of course, we're going to post any news about new episodes, any news of this series 12 coming out, casting news, whatnot, and, of course, any cool Doctor Who related stuff that we end up posting, as always.
Or you want to see a picture of me with Sylvester McCoy?
Exactly. That would be cool. You could, share that photo. And, please do.
I did. It's in a comment.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right. I'm sorry. You did share that photo because that was in response. I posted the Ace GIF.
Yes, you did.
Where she's going Ace, jumping up and down. Yeah, that's right. Or you can reach us on Instagram, our spiffy Instagram account, Next Stop Everywhere Podcast on the Insta. Check that out, please. Xan, where can they reach you on the interwebs?
Well, I'm on the Instagram and on the Twitters.
Yeah.
As Udinax19. And if you want to know how to spell that, it's Xanadu spelled backwards.
Yep.
So Udinax19.
Right.
And you can also hit me up on the Ghostwood Twitter and Facebook feeds.
Please do.
I'm available there. What about you, Charles?
Well, of course, to use my usual spiel, Twitter and Instagram at Charles Skaggs, or Facebook at Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio. Or blog of geeky things.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
See, we always get some Twin Peaks in here somehow. Damn good coffee and hot, where I talk about all the stuff we talk about here on Next Stop Everywhere, including Doctor Who, Torchwood, Sarah Jane Adventures, news of my other podcasts that I do for Southgate Media, including that spiffy Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast that I do with Xan. Where we talk about all things Twin Peaks, David Lynch, and whatever pop culture thing pops into our brains, which we do on a pretty regular basis. Mm-hmm. Simpsons references, Ghostbuster references,
Batman 1989 references.
We've been big on Batman 1989 lately, but with Thomas Eckhart. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, so if you enjoyed us here, what we did, our little rambling little thing we did here today, please check us out on Ghostwood and tell your friends about us because that would be very appreciated. Otherwise, my other podcast that I do with Jesse, Titan Talk, the Titans podcast that where we talk about all things Titans, and currently reviewing the Doom Patrol series that's on DC Universe, which has been fantastic, and any kind of other DC Universe stuff, any kind of Titans related stuff we talk about there, and please check that out as well. And also go to Southgate Media Group's website and please support the Patreon page because I'm sure Rob Southgate would appreciate that
Totally.
to keep the lights on here at Next Stop Everywhere and also on Ghostwood. We definitely would appreciate that. So other than that, we don't have a closing quote because Jesse's not here. But thanks again to Xan. Thank you so much, Xan, for being here. I had a ball.
This was 100% my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
I hope you had a good time talking Doctor Who.
I had a great time talking Doctor Who.
And you're always welcome back. Anytime you want to come back, just let me know. And
Emailing on what episode?
Yeah, well, I posted that list of what's left.
Yeah.
So you could check that and see what strikes your fancy.
I'll have to check that out
again.
Again.
Whatever fancy striking is necessary. But other than that, thanks everybody for listening, and we will see you next time for Dalek with Jesse. Come on back, and we'll see you next time right here at Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. Goodbye, everybody.
Else, like when I hung up on you, I got the bloop bloop noises, and
then cool. We got the recording back. Yay! All right.
All right. Jesse's gonna have some fun editing this, isn't he?
Yes, he is. But it's all right. We've done worse. It's Skype. So Jesse, obviously we're going to patch this together to finish this up.
Jesse, if you could work some auditory duct tape magic, we would love you for it.
That's all right. He's gotten pretty good at the whole editing ninja thing that he does.
Right.
So he's good. He's the man. So thankfully, he's really good at it. So let's pick up where we were. Do you remember where you last heard me?
We were talking about the gods.
Okay.
And I was talking about how they've just kept people stuck in their.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's all. I forget what I had said, and then you started. I thought you froze, and then all of a sudden I realized you were.
Yeah, not talking.
Talking, and I could not hear anything. I couldn't even hear.
Okay.
Like little blips of you. It was just silent.
Okay, so let's do this. I will count us back down, and we'll just kind of pick up with the gods of Ragnarok.
That works for me.
Okay, so Jesse, if you're listening, I'm going to count us down, and we'll pick back up in 3, 2, 1.